We are here with Dr. Emily Cooper from the Diabesity Research Foundation and the author of The Metabolic Storm.
So our topic today, I think you're going to find really interesting at home. We're going to be talking about binge eating, which really affects a lot of people, but not very many people talk about it. I think we joke about it, Dr. Cooper, but
Yes.
Let's talk about binge eating. Let's talk about, first of all, what it is.
Yeah, binge eating or food addiction, it's really something that you don't hear a lot about, people don't talk a lot about, and there's a big stigma attached. And often, binge eating is actually characterized as a psychiatric disorder, but there are powerful biological forces that actually drive these behaviors. And you have to understand that the metabolism is actually regulated by a complex feedback loop where the brain and body communicate through hormone messengers. And feeling satisfied after you eat is not something that you should just feel in your stomach. You should actually sense it by your brain. So if there are actually short circuits in this communication pathway, then it can actually interfere with those normal signals and it can trigger your body to binge eat in an effort to protect you from perceived starvation. So binge eating is actually a symptom, and these short circuits are the underlying biological driver.
So it's not necessarily that you're hungry, it's that you're not satisfied.
Right,
with
you
what
don't
you've eaten.
sense, you can't sense in your brain. So many people experience this where they actually keep eating until their stomach feels uncomfortable. Right. But actually we should first feel it in our brain that we're done eating.
We know with drinking that binge drinking is sort of clearly defined. Like if you have X number of drinks in this amount of time, that's binge drinking.
Right.
Is there a definition for binge eating?
There is. It's just a feeling of being out of control with your eating and shame surrounding that, which a lot of people experience. And some people say, well, I have emotional eating or stress eating. And so often people will experience an increase in these symptoms during periods of stress. But what's interesting is that when the body's under stress, it puts an added burden on that same communication pathway that regulates our appetite. So if you have short circuits in that pathway, it can amplify these episodes.
Any other triggers that people should sort of be aware of?
Well, anything that makes your body feel deprived nutritionally can trigger it. So often people are very stressed during an actual binge episode, and they're trying to figure out how to stop it there. But they should really be focused on what triggered it, which could be periods of restriction of your food intake, irregular eating, not getting enough food groups, not getting enough calories, not fueling your exercise, because that actually then creates real signals of starvation within the feedback loop. So of course it leads to these binge eating or feelings of being out of control. Of course, certain people are more genetically predisposed, because if there's a family history of diabetes or obesity, then you can already have some underlying glitches there.
So what's your best advice, Dr. Cooper? If people, I know probably a lot of folks out there can relate to this, what should they do?
Well, the important thing, it sounds really counterintuitive to focus on eating when your problem is binging. But really that's what you need to do. Focus on regular eating, all food groups throughout the day.
Like how many times a day?
If you're awake early in the morning and you go to bed late, it should be about 6 times a day. Wow. Because if you're really eating every few hours, then it adds up to about 6 times a day. So 3 meals and 2 or 3 snacks. And that just keeps your body from getting into that deprivation mode. And if you exercise, you really want to make sure to fuel it properly. And if you have these underlying kind of short circuits, managing your stress can really help prevent the amplification that can occur. But the important thing is to actually seek medical advice and find out whether or not you have an underlying metabolic problem or blood sugar imbalances. And it's really important to get rid of the food rules and the body shame. And children can also experience this. And so if parents are constantly telling them, you should have had enough food, you should be satisfied, you ate enough, but they may not actually feel that satisfaction, and they may actually start hiding food if they're not on a regular eating pattern.
Wow.
So something to consider.
Yeah, no kidding. Dr. Emily Cooper, thank you. I've never even thought about binge eating in that way, but this has been really interesting.
Great. Thanks for having me.
See you next time. Thank you.